Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good night, good whenever you're listening to us. Welcome to another episode of hopefully your favorite podcast and mine, Midnight's Edge After Dark. I am joined, of course, by Mr. Tom Connors. How you doing?
I am doing the best I can, sir. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. I, of course, am your narrator supreme, Mr. Robb, Robot Shlomo, coming to you from Shabby Road Studios, home of the second most dangerous city in America with a population of over 100,000.
Yeah.
Woohoo! Yeah, hey, we're gonna be number one soon. And joining us once again, fresh off the Trek logs, is Ren from Rants. How you doing?
I'm doing just swell. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Great of you to stick around for us to do a podcast. Thank you very much. You are absolutely fantastic on the Trek logs.
Yeah, Ren gets to join us on the Trek log this week. So yes, there will be a new Trek log this week as well, where we cover the last 4 episodes of the Orville, the real Star Trek.
Yes, we're recording these back to back. So when we asked Ren if she'd be kind enough to stick around, and she agreed. So she hasn't regretted joining us yet. So hopefully we can keep
Connor into coming back.
Yes,
again.
exactly. So Tom,
so far you haven't scared me off.
Yeah. So, Tom, what we got for today's episode? We're going to dive into some listener questions, aren't we?
Yeah, well, we haven't gotten to do questions in a long time, and when we first started doing the show, we did it quite a bit, and the fans like it. We actually have a few fans out there, all 6 of them, and, they like to send us questions. So we're finally going to do that on the weekends. If there's nothing really big to talk about as far as news-wise, we're going to dive into questions. So our first question comes from Facebook group member Tyler Bioshock Rod, who is also one of the mods there. His question is there any property that you don't trust Disney with? Ren?
Most of them, all of them. Well, actually, they didn't as horribly bungle Star Wars as I was expecting, so that's good. Like, there were some things that I thought were questionable that they've done so far, but I basically wouldn't trust them anywhere near Star Trek or any other sci-fi property that I really like. Especially with how a lot of the modern Trek is looking, I would just prefer if they keep their hands off. Although CBS isn't doing much better, so...
Fraggle Rock, I don't know. They've done a pretty good job with all of this so far. Star Trek, I'm not really sure. Like I said, as long as they keep the 2 separate, Star Wars and Star Trek, I really don't have a problem. If they were to buy the 007 film distribution rights, I really wouldn't have a problem with that because Barbara Broccoli handles all the creative side. I don't know. I haven't found one yet.
I'm going to surprise everybody who thinks that we're actually being paid by Disney, which I'm waiting for that check in the mail because my rent is still late as hell. Not a lot of things, like Ren said, because of this reason only. And I touched a little bit on this before the show, so I'm going to try and keep it brief now. Outside of Marvel and Star Wars, there's been some shake shit with Star Wars, so we're not going to get into all that. But Marvel, just because they've let the machine run. They bought the machine, then they just gave the machine some more gas and said, keep going. And that's why that worked out. Everything else Disney seems to have touched in the last 20 some odd years ends up getting tainted in some way. The Muppets, Pixar. They spent last part of the last decade before this trying to get a new franchise like Pirates of the Caribbean going and spending all kinds of money on animated features, and they've finally had some success, but that's just because they bought a lot of successful stuff. And they've allowed it for the most part to go forward without any hindrance outside of, like I said, Muppets and Pixar seem to have suffered the most from this situation here. And going forward, unless it's something like Marvel to where it's coming pre-packaged to Disney to where all they're getting now is just that energy boost from Disney behind it, it kind of scares me. It does in a lot of ways. Because it depends on who's handling it. And with Bob Iger leaving, that's another scary situation. As far as Star Wars, I'm going to briefly say, I've said it in the past, I'm not 100% sure on what the situation behind the scenes is. I have this feeling that Kathleen Kennedy, since she came packaged with the deal, there were people that weren't exactly happy about that in Disney. So they have pushed a lot of things, and Kathy has had to fix things, even though she gets to seem to get a lot of the brunt of, what goes on out there. I think she's actually legitimately trying to do right by these films, and she's getting a lot of interference from Disney, to be honest. That's my opinion. I have nothing other than the proof as far as the director fiascos and all that shit to show for that. So, but she ends up being the in the situation. So, I don't know.
Hey, well, thanks for the question, Tyler.
All right, Sarah Moreno, who's actually a good friend of the podcast, should WB reboot the DCEU after Justice League's disappointing box office? Ren, did you get to see Justice League yet?
I didn't because I heard that it was terrible, and while I have Movie Pass and could see it for free, I still value my time.
Same here.
Yeah, Rob, we're trying to get him to see it at some point.
There are 4 lights. That's my response to that. But no,
That's Star Trek.
Yeah, but I think
Poor Picard.
very simply, I think they will de-emphasize the whole cinematic universe aspect. They will just go. The movies will work more standalone after they do Flashpoint, if that's the plan.
If it's made now.
Yeah, they will be less interconnected at the going forward. The previous movies will still have happened,
right,
but they won't speak of them.
Right. Well, and I'll keep my answer brief again because I've said it before. I think Rob's right. They're going to go forward trying to do the standalone films more so. They'll keep Wonder Woman. They'll see how Aquaman does since he did get a fairly decent reception from the film. Flash, I'm not so sure about now. The only thing I can see with Flash is if they actually do use that to reboot the entire DC universe, but I don't think they're going to be that worried about intertwining things going forward because Wonder Woman works.
I did enjoy Wonder Woman. That's the only one I went and saw in a while.
I didn't, but I also understand those who did, and to me it's kind of like what Eddie Murphy once said. You know, the DC movies up to that point were so shitty, and if you're starving and someone gives you a cracker, as Eddie Murphy says, it's the best damn cracker you ever had. So just because Wonder Woman wasn't a clusterfuck, people thought it was a great movie. Yeah.
It wasn't amazing or anything. Yeah, no, I thought it was okay. I enjoyed it. But honestly, for me, I'm not the biggest fan of superhero movies as a genre, personally. I find they often get a little bit cartoony, and they can just when they go bad, they go so bad. Is the thing.
Then you probably are best, staying away from Justice League because that went really cartoony.
Yeah.
Jay Townsend asks, should WB release a Justice League Ultimate Cut like they did for BVS and Suicide Squad? Now, we just talked about this recently, about the whole Zack Snyder cut, and then now Kevin Smith. I love him to death, but he went and fueled this even more by claiming to have seen the earlier version or whatever and talking about all these scenes that are in it, which I'm sure he saw the incomplete version where the effects were not finished yet, and all the scenes that we've seen leaked were not finished yet, and the understanding is that if there is any culled together cut that you could call the Snyder cut, it's not finished, because this isn't like Batman v Superman to where the movie was already finished and they decided to chop it down. The only thing that's going to be included is whatever was done. Warner Brothers is not going to spend another dime on this movie. I hate to be the one to break everybody's hearts, but it's true.
I don't think there's any supercut that could have saved this movie anyway.
And they're not going to spend more money on it, regardless. And then like Andre said, at the risk of looking bad, release another version of this movie that could possibly be better than the other version, as most people felt the ultimate cut of Batman v Superman was. They're not going to do that and turn around and look like jackasses.
I think they're going to release an ultimate cut, but it's not going to fix anything.
No, it's not going to be anything groundbreaking or.
So okay, well anyway, thanks for the question. So.
Eric Kramer asks, if once Disney Marvel gets all of Fox's F4 rights back, is it possible that we'll see Galactus as Thanos' father, and would you be for it?
Yeah, as much as I'd like to, it is far too late to do that now. At least for an Infinity War. In the future, who knows? But they first would have to actually get the rights, and then would actually have to make a Fantastic Four movie, and they try to incorporate all these characters into, and that's going to take a while. So. Yes, but provisionally not. They probably won't be able to do it right away.
I do see them using Galactus, but like you said, I don't see it. I could see it taking a while for them to integrate the Fantastic Four and X-Men into this universe. Yeah. Well, all right. Thanks for the question. Fred Archer asks, I know a contract was signed for a second season. Do you think ABC will renew Inhumans?
I personally didn't watch this show, so
nobody did.
I can't really comment on it from any perspective of having seen it. I didn't really find it very appealing as a premise, to be honest.
I haven't finished it yet. Rob and I started watching it. Did you get through the whole show yet, Rob?
No, I didn't. I forgot it was on!
Yeah, I know. They kind of buried it on Fridays. It was...
I don't think Inhumans is going to get a second season. They will sweep it under the rug. It might come back years from now if they ever do a Phase 5 as a movie, but I don't think that we're going to get a second season in Humans.
No, I don't see another season, especially if Disney gets their hands, or Marvel anyway, gets their hands back on the X-Men. There's no reason for it. Too much of a clusterfuck for ABC and Marvel. And they're probably lucky nobody's watching and noticed. You know what I mean? Like, it was such a bad belly flop that it won't really hurt Marvel at all because nobody paid attention.
Daniel Garrett Irwin. Rian Johnson is one of my favorite rising directors working today, and after watching his past work, I am fully convinced he is the perfect match for Star Wars The Last Jedi. Do you think Johnson is a better director than J.J. Abrams, another director I like? Yes. That's, I don't know what more I can say. J.J. Abrams is good at what he does. Rian Johnson is good at what he does. I mean...
Ren?
Yeah. I thought Looper was okay. It wasn't my favorite movie, but I thought it was fun in some parts and really interesting.
I mean, outside of Looper, I've really not seen any of his movies, so I have no real...
No frame of reference, really, yeah.
Yeah, no real frame of reference, but for JJ, I've liked pretty much everything I've seen of his. I mean, even the stuff that I would be like, it was alright, it was still well done, you know?
He really likes lens flare.
Yeah, that's like one of his things, yeah. That's, other than that, I mean, he's still a quality storyteller. He still does understand, you know, story and character structure. So, I mean, I guess with this one, I'd have to go with JJ just because I have more to go on. And I'm interested to see what Ryan does with The Last Jedi and going forward, because Looper was a very interesting story. What do we got next?
Zornig J. Vogel. Will Marvel ever get the balls to tackle something like What If? Secondly, make it more like the anthology show, Black Mirror. Okay, What If is kind of a good idea for a comic book. I really don't think it would work as a TV show. So I don't think Marvel would ever do a What If television series.
Maybe as a TV show, but never as features, no.
It'd be kind of fun
an animated
as
show, maybe
something like a special, yeah, an animated special or things like that.
Straight to video, maybe
for certain things. I haven't read these series. I'm just reading through the titles of some of these now. Like, what if the Hulk had the brain of Bruce Banner? What if the Avengers had never been? What if the invaders stayed together after World War II? What if Captain America hadn't vanished during World War II? There's all some fun premises to explore, but I don't imagine you could spend all too much time on them while still making them really that interesting.
Well, yeah, a lot of one-shots.
The best one to read is actually one of my favorites, What If Captain America weren't thought out until today? Not to get too deep into politics, but we do see a lot of parallels to what's going on today in current political climate. And that's all I have to say about that.
Chris Ortiz asks, with Time Warner and AT&T facing a lawsuit, do you think that the proposed merger may end up not happening? Without getting into too much political stuff, tend to try not to do that.
There's a lot to unpack with this question, with all the antitrust implications and everything. So there's really no real easy quick answer to this.
It's a possible blackmail.
It's a very, very complex and nuanced issue that has a number of factors that we can't really explore until the lawsuit gets further.
And we also have to consider the repeal of net neutrality too.
Exactly. So they're looking at repealing net neutrality, and then there is the fact that with the lawsuit they're most likely going for a rules decision, which means that the goal of the attorneys here when they're lobbying this, it's not necessarily to win exactly, it's to get a change in the rules so that they can do whatever they want.
Right.
You know, it's not a monetary gain type of thing. So it's definitely something that's going to have some far-reaching implications, but I don't think we'll be able to really analyze that in depth until we see some arguments.
Right. Well, and I guess the best way I can go at this, like I said, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, and this will have implications going forward on how Warner Brothers is run and who runs it, and I really wouldn't be surprised in the next week or two, if not right after Christmas, Kevin Tsujihara steps down. So we're going to see a lot of changes at Warner Brothers, and then once that merger happens, that's basically kind of like that was Warner Brothers' safety net at one point. Now it's not looking so safe, basically, is I guess the best way to put it. Well, Fred Archer's got another one here. Do you think there should be a second reboot of Power Rangers?
No. There shouldn't have been a first reboot.
No.
Power Rangers is one of those properties I think that they think there's a bigger audience for than there really is.
No.
I don't know too many Power Ranger fans who weren't either people who grew up with it. Other than that, they're 4.
It's not a franchise. It's not. It doesn't. You can't make it a franchise. Leave it alone.
This is
leave
not a
leave it
story
just as
that
it is.
left us asking, yes, what happens next for these characters? You know, no.
It's based on footage culled from a 40-year-old show from Japan, Super Sentai. Leave it as that.
It was a little past my time. I get the show, I get the appeal, but it just kind of loses something when you try and translate it to the big screen with a big budget and try and take it too seriously.
It's something that's because of its camp, and if you take the camp away and try to work with what's left, there's not much left, is the thing.
Yeah. There's no reason for a dark and gritty Power Rangers, really.
Right, unless you turn around and do exactly what they did with the original 1995 movie, where it was basically just an extension of the TV show at the time, where the campiness is still there, but there is a bigger budget and all that. But I have not yet seen the reboot. I know there's a few people who like it, but for the most part, I know it just bombed. So anyway, all right, Rob, who's on deck next?
Yeah, Elmer Pueblo. He asks us, when will we get to purchase Midnight's Edge merchandise? Hopefully soon. I'd love to get a Midnight's Edge coffee mug myself.
I want a shirt.
I would wear a shirt.
Best I can say is hopefully soon. I know Andre has a goal for that, so I really don't know how much he wants us to talk about it, so we'll just leave it at that for now. Hopefully soon. Fernando Loyola asks, during the time of the first Pacific Rim, there was rumors going around that there was going to be a crossover with Godzilla. Any chance of this happening still? Before they had the whole team up with Legendary and King Kong, yes. No, not with Kong involved. There's no real reason. So, yeah, I at that moment in time, it became a grudge match with, you know, your big two top stars, like, you know, Muhammad Ali versus Mike Tyson. So, no. Rob?
Yeah, no.
Ren?
No.
No, please no.
Okay, Jay Townsend has a question for us. Will Avengers Infinity War become the highest grossing movie of all time?
Yes, next question.
Ren, what do you think? Probably?
Don't see why not.
It has the potential, yes. It does. It may be battling The Last Jedi for that mantle, though. I have a feeling. We'll see going forward here, and it's going to be a short amount of time between both, so we'll get to see.
Ryan McGlinchey has a great question. Do these questions have to be related to anything in particular? Pastrami sandwich. That's what. That's my answer. You ask an unrelated question, I'm going to give you an unrelated answer.
42.
Ren?
Peanut butter.
There you go.
Not on a sandwich, just peanut butter by itself.
Oh, I love peanut butter.
It's so good.
Matthew Given has to ask us, do you think Netflix will survive Disney's streaming service given that Disney seems to want to take them down? They are taking Marvel's popular Netflix shows and they are making deals with other studios while Netflix is losing a lot of shows and movies. Or do you think Netflix own the original shows and have enough of a fan base to keep them going? Also, why do you think Disney decided to go to the time and expense of making their own streaming service when for years things seem to have been going well with them and Netflix? Why do you think the breakdown between the two companies happened? Well, Matt, actually, if you want to get a more detailed analysis of how we think this probably went, because we did it in like real time on the podcast, you should definitely go back and check out those episodes. But the short version is Disney wanted to buy Netflix and Netflix said no. So then Disney was like, well, fine then, screw you guys, I'm gonna go make my own Netflix
with blackjack and hookers
and
screw you guys, I'm going home.
So yeah, no, they're like, well, screw you guys then. And to the best of our knowledge, the Netflix shows like Daredevil and all that stuff will continue and run their course out on Netflix, but anything new going forward will be exclusive to the Disney platform. And as far as Netflix goes, it's going to sting for a while. Do I think it's going to kill them? No. I think Disney will be able to coexist with Netflix and Hulu and Amazon for the most part. Sooner or later, the bottom's going to drop out and we might lose one of them, but it won't be Netflix.
I'd like to see it actually a little bit. I think it'd be okay because I've been seeing Netflix has been having a decline in some quality content in terms of like the amount of quality content that isn't just their original programming, and I don't think there's enough of just their original programming to justify the price increases they keep having to do. And I think if we get a newer, better streaming service because of it, I'm okay with it. I don't have an attachment.
Well, just cut out the middleman. If anybody's going to make a streaming service work, it's going to be Disney. Really.
Well, in the words of Porky Pig, that's all, folks. So we want to thank Ren once again for joining us on this podcast. And, of course, keep a watch out for the Trek log coming up soon with her, where she talks Orville with us. So, Ren, tell them where they can find you.
It was an absolute blast to be here. You can find me on YouTube. My channel is Rants. I have both political and pop culture videos, but if you like one and not the other, I do also have them separated into playlists for you, so you can pretend the other ones don't exist. I also can be found on Facebook. My page is just Rants, and you can find me on Twitter at Ren_rant.
And yes, Ren knows a lot about Star Trek, so if you're a Trek fan, we suggest you head over there.
Yes, and where can you find us?
You can find us right here at Midnight's Edge After Dark as usual, and we will be starting to broadcast. This is our schedule that I think, Rob, you signed off on, right?
Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. A lot of things are, like schedule is subject to change. Let's see if there's a rain. Let's see if there's a rain out or whatever,
Well, it's like we've never been able to get a straight schedule together for this show since the very start due to every technical difficulty you can think of. So going forward, we're hoping to do our shows on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for you guys. So hopefully that's the case, and then that Friday or Saturday is kind of like, we'll see. Depends on everybody's schedule, and a lot of times it'll probably be these Q&A sessions since there's not a whole lot of news to talk about on the weekends generally, but we'll see how that goes. But anyway, Rob, anything else to add to that? I know if they want to get some exclusive content, where they can go.
They can head on over to Patreon. Patreon users will get all kinds of bonuses. You'll get early previews. You got the last Trek log, actually, you got early, a few days early before it went up on the main channel. You'll get notifications for upcoming mini-documentaries. You'll get exclusive peeks of mini-documentaries. You'll get the uncut audio for the Alien mini-documentary. And I keep saying that because that was really hard for me to record. So, yes. And as always, if you do not have the means to support us through Patreon, then please click subscribe and support us that way. And like I said, don't forget to head over to Ren's channel and subscribe. Like I said, we'd like to thank once again Ren from Ren Rants, actually, for joining us. She's been absolutely delightful. Thank you for joining us.
It was great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, and come back anytime. And once again, we'd like to thank Mr. Tom Connors.
Thank you, sir.
And I am your narrator supreme, Mr. Rob Robot Shlomo, and we will catch you next time.